I am so glad that everybody is here. I'm glad that you press play. I'm proud of you for pressing play. I know that especially when you're in burnout or feeling chronically stressed, things feel heavy and hard, and it takes a lot to think about doing something that can help. If you are here, you probably do carry a lot. You probably have been moving through the world in chronic stress. You may have been feeling, especially here at the end of the year, like the expectations that are on you feel heavy. And I want you to know that the fact that you are here tells me that you are ready for something to shift. And I have been there, and I'm so excited to walk you through this process that genuinely helped me so much. This session is going to be all about helping you understand why burnout makes it so hard to dream and plan and imagine a future, but why it's so important to be able to do those things, and how a values-based vision board or values-based visualization can help you get that ability back and then slowly build it into your day to reduce the amount of chronic stress that you are under. So what you'll learn tonight is why your brain shuts down access to that long-term vision under chronic stress, how values can help rebuild that clarity and direction, and then how visualization works at a neuroscience level. And then I'll walk you a little bit through the vision board process. My intention is just really simple. I want you to leave this replay feeling calmer and clearer and more hopeful about your next chapter. Before we dive in, I want to invite you to ask yourself this question. What is one feeling that you want to protect or create more space for in 2026? I don't want you to overthink it, but pause here. The first or second word that comes up for you is usually the right one. So just hold that word gently, and we're going to work with it or come back to it later. You are in the right place if you are a clinician or a student or a helping professional, a parent, anybody who is feeling burnt out or stretched really thin or misaligned. You might be curious about vision boards, but maybe you don't necessarily see yourself as a vision board person. I also was there. Maybe you've been operating in autopilot and you want to reconnect with what actually matters, and you might want a more aligned 2026 that feels lighter and clearer and grounded, and like, who doesn't? I want you to know that you're closer than you think, and burnout didn't take away the ability for you to feel joy or connection. It just disconnected you from it. And tonight we're going to talk about the process for you to start getting it back and start feeling that connection again in your life. At the end, I will share an opportunity for you to continue this work with me and our community inside of the Alignment Revolution, where we will create your full vision board together and support you in living it through 2026. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dr. Angelin. I am an SLP, a burnout coach, and I like to call myself an alignment strategist. I help clinicians and educators to regulate chronic stress and reconnect with their values and make aligned decisions without having to run away to a cabin in the woods. I lived burnout over and over again. I lived the cycle of it. I studied burnout, and now I teach clinicians how to build lives that feel like their own again and like they don't need a break from. During my doctorate program, I was deep in burnout, and when I was there, I had a really hard time imagining a future, not even just 5 years ahead, but like not even one semester ahead. And by reconnecting with my values and using visualization, I was able to bring my clarity back. This shifted my identity, it reshaped my work, and it truly changed my life. And it is the foundation of the process that we are going to talk about tonight. So let's start with the real reason why burnout steals your clarity and how we get it back. I want to talk about what tonight isn't. Tonight is not going to be a generic, what kind of house do I want? What kind of car do I want? What do I want things to look like kind of vision board workshop. This is going to be about values-based, science-backed visioning. We're going to find images that feel good to your nervous system, and we're going to use the board as a compass and not a wish list. That's really important. And so before we talk about the brain science or images, we have to talk about burnout and values, because that's really where this all started for me. As you can see on the slide, burnout is a word that we use. It's a buzzword. And to me, it's the tip of the iceberg. The definition of burnout is a response to prolonged exposure to chronic stress in the workplace or in other circumstances. I can tell you I see a lot of parental burnout, especially the parents of our clients, of students who have higher support needs. I think there's a lot of burnout there, and it really is a place that I don't know that there's always as much support. So that prolonged exposure to chronic stress is going to lead to emotional exhaustion, cynicism, and a reduced sense of personal accomplishment. So things that used to feel rewarding stop feeling as rewarding. You might be more easily frustrated by a client. You may lose your patience more or have a shorter fuse. And for me, this looks like not having the best work-home transition plan. And so I often ended up snapping at everybody in my family, especially if I was super hungry. So often when I meet somebody in a coaching capacity or a friend, or even when I was recently at ASHA, everybody was like, wait a second, tell me about how I can fix my burnout. And when I ask people what they want more of in their life, what they would do with more time, not being burnt out, right? They usually tell me that they don't know. And that is so typical of burnout. When you spend months or years in survival mode, the part of your brain responsible for visioning and planning and creativity and possibility just goes offline. You are in survival mode. If we were in caveman times, you would be trying to stay alive while you were out foraging. And there's no time for fun when that's happening. Burnout can come from so many places. It can come from a heavy workload, a high caseload, school settings that have minimal support, terrible bosses, stressors outside of work, starting your own business, not allowing yourself to rest. Literally, the list goes on forever. The multidimensional theory of burnout tells us that burnout can come from these 6 mismatches. We have workload, community, control, fairness, reward, and values. And for me, in my burnout, the piece that was most impactful was realizing that it can come from a values mismatch and realizing I had no idea what my core values were. As an example, one of my core values is connection, but in a job or a setting where there's no time to connect with clients, coworkers, or families, I end up feeling very disconnected, and that is a misalignment. Maybe I'm so tired that I get home and I can't really think about, and I haven't had a moment to think in the day, and then I end up snapping at my kid or my husband after a long day, and then I feel awful and disconnected. So we know that burnout is from chronic stress, which is caused from values misalignment. The path forward we often think is rest or a vacation. I like to say that vacations don't fix our burnout. They're great, but usually we come back and we have just as much stress. And for me, in my experience, the path forward was really reconnection. Reconnecting to myself, reconnecting to the people around me, and most importantly, reconnecting to what is meaningful to me through my core values, and then using them as a guide to tell me what direction to move in a way that things felt meaningful and energizing and true was so helpful. I have found that values-based vision boards work because they act as a tangible tool to visually represent a values-based path towards a fulfilling, balanced, and resilient life. When we use our core values as a guide, as our compass, the first thing we need to do is identify the misalignments that are happening for us, and something we work towards inside of the membership, and there are lots of resources. I can also point you towards some free resources that I have, but one thing you want to ask yourself is, where are the misalignments happening right now? Where am I acting out of a should instead of something that is meaningful to me? What I found was that values-based vision boards were a tool to keep my values and my vision front and center, and everything I do in the membership and in this process really ties back to core values. So I want to quickly go through, I don't have a slide for this, but I want to talk about the ways you can identify your core values. And there are so many tools inside of the membership. I also shared a bingo board during the call last night, which I will put in the email that comes with this recording, but here's a high-level overview. I want you to start noticing your misalignments. So think about your language and when are you telling yourself, I should do that? One example I like to give of this is I always thought I should work out every day. And I either worked out every day or felt guilty about not working out every day. And then I was putting all this pressure on myself and resentment was building up. And that was a violated core value because I was not asking myself what I needed or connecting with myself. I was really just doing what I thought I should do. One of the things that we talk about in the membership is differentiating your shouldy values and your real values. And so we inherit our values from family and society. As graduate students, I think we are expected to fit into the values of a graduate program, which come down from ASHA, and I think are just different than the values that we go in with, but we're expected to have this mold. And identifying your authentic values is a process that really takes some peeling of the layers. I sometimes liken it to peeling the layers of an onion. So many of your burnout mismatches are going to come from trying to live up to values that aren't yours. You can use prompts like, what makes me the most angry or the most frustrated? If you can identify some situations that make you really frustrated and look for a pattern there, that can be really helpful. Where do I feel the most resentment? I think that definitely speaks to being a people pleaser. Before doing a lot of this work, I really identified as a people pleaser. I didn't want people to be angry or upset with me, and so I just did things to keep the peace. And I think that caused a lot of resentment, and oftentimes that's a place where you can find a values misalignment. And then if you are inside of the alignment revolution, you can go to the classroom and go to the resources tab or the AI prompts tab. And there are tools. There are some AI prompts, and there's Corey, the custom GPT, who can help you to do some deeper exploration. All right, we're going to take a little ride for a brief history of my own vision boards. Here is my 2013 vision board. She is very shouldy. The biggest thing on this vision board is my desire to be a hot wife. That did not even just speak to being hot. That spoke to, I felt like I would not be a whole person if I did not find a husband. So many things on here are about how I wanted to look. I wanted to look like this in a bathing suit so that I looked good in a bathing suit. Here's your chance to reconnect with you, love and kindness. So I was like on my way, right? But there's a lot of shoulddiness on here. But the process that I have now feels so much better. I started to see that when I built my vision board around my values, it really shifted how I moved through my days. And it gave me a clear compass of what I wanted more of and what I wanted to move towards, instead of a list of things that were just this big wish that I was never going to get. So here is my 2024 vision board. This was my first rodeo as far as values-based vision boards go. I was starting to put things on here that made me feel really good. Instead of wanting to look a certain way in a bathing suit, I really was imagining myself taking more hot girl walks. And they didn't even have to be a hot girl walk. They were like a more mindful process. I had some important words. And so this was my first go around. And then here are my first and second, update them quarterly, values-based vision boards. There's actually neuroscience behind why all of this works, and it's not just pictures. And so when we look towards what we want more of, we're activating parts of our brain that help us move out of burnout. And everything we do inside of the Alignment Revolution, everything I do in my one-on-one coaching really is based on this process of identifying what is important and what is meaningful and what we want to move towards. And then building this flexible, capacity-based way to incorporate it into our lives and meet ourselves where we're at. So now that we've talked about burnout and values, I want to zoom out and look at what's happening in your brain when you use a values-based vision board. It is not magic. It's science. And in chronic stress, right, your brain is in survival mode. You are having a really hard time with that forward thinking because your brain is shut down because it's just trying to survive. The emails that are in your email box are essentially like dinosaurs chasing you, and your brain is not able to focus on things that feel good and calm because it is just trying to survive. It's really hard to think about what you want more of when all you can see is that chronic stress. And we know that the chronic stress is what leads to burnout, and so it's this cycle that never stops. There are 3 processes that I really focus on when I talk about the key brain systems that support us with our values-based visioning. We know about neuroplasticity, right? We can rewire our brain through repetition. So your brain, seeing your vision board every day, is going to strengthen neural pathways that are connected to identity and hope and aligned action and future-oriented thinking. Even though your brain feels like it's being chased by dinosaurs, you are slowly rewiring it to see the things that we intentionally put on our vision boards. And every time that you look at your vision board, you're rehearsing this future vision. And when we align that with our values, it is so meaningful, and that is huge. Next is our limbic system. That's the part of our brain that is responsible for emotion and meaning. And so the limbic system is going to drive our motivation and our memory and our identity and action and behavior change through emotion. And when your board reflects your true values, and when your pictures cause you to have this positive emotional response, your limbic system is going to light up, and the emotional activation is going to signal the rest of your brain to build those pathways. In a little while, we're going to talk about why it's so important to put pictures that really make you feel good. A picture that makes me feel really good, it might be different than the picture that someone puts of them hiking in a mountain. If I had put a picture of me hiking in a mountain, I would look at my vision board and I would want to give it the finger. So we need to pick pictures that make us feel really good. And then there's our reticular activating system. As our brain is always being bombarded with information, our reticular activating system, or RAS, is the network of neurons that act as a filter. Our RAS is going to filter attention for what you tell it to look for. I'm sure you've heard of the theory that if you decide that you want to buy a white car, you start seeing white cars everywhere. I know when we just bought my daughter a Nissan Rogue, my husband was like, I don't even see anyone driving those. And then the next day he was like, do you know how many Nissan Rogues I've seen since we got her that? And so it really does start, your brain starts to filter for what is important to it. And so by showing our brain the things that are important to us, we're going to be scanning for those aligned experiences and looking for them more. Values-based vision boards really support a deliberate process of training our brains to work for you and not just in that survival-based autopilot that burnout tells us we should stay in. Values-based vision boards are not magic. They don't make things appear, but they do train your brain to move towards what matters. The process of doing this is this 4-part funnel. We're going to clarify what matters. We're going to create an emotional map. We're going to prime our attention, and then we're going to follow the aligned cues. And so some practical ways we can do this, we can make our vision board visible. So we can have it, let me show you. Mine is my home screen on my phone. You can print it out and keep it by you. You can keep it on your computer background. I'll share this on Wednesday, but I keep mine in my Todoist app, and it pulls up for me in the same place that I have a couple of other parts of my morning routine. But you want to be able to see it daily, as many times as you can. You want to choose images that feel good and not just look aspirational. We want your nervous system to relax and not tense up. If an image feels off, I don't want you to use it. I want you to just keep looking and maybe put something as a placeholder, but you might use a metaphor. if something feels too literal. So for me at first, I didn't love how money looked on my vision board. And so I used the flowing river. And then for me, freedom sometimes isn't just a literal picture of quit your job. It is hot air balloons. It's a very freedom feeling thing. And I'll show you some examples of that. And then I want you to use either the first person perspective, so as if you are sitting at a desk in a coffee shop. We're going to try not to use other people's faces that aren't ours. And so I'll show you how you can build your vision board around what is there for you. And then you want to include moments from your real life. So photos where you already feel joyful or feel aligned. And I will show you some of those on my vision board as well. We're going to just go through these really quick, but my vision board process also does not include SMART goals. So I do not want to sit down on Wednesday and have you pick out how many Instagram followers you want at the end of the year, or how much you want to weigh, or what kind of hot wife you want to look like, and poking fun at my old vision board. Thinking a whole year in advance or setting SMART goals for the year feels really pressury to me. So I use flexible goal containers instead of rigid SMART goals. I'm going to recommend that you set goals for these 3 areas. The way I set up my vision board personally is by having a grow container, a flow container, and a grow container. And I can't call these goals because it's too hard to say. My grow section has what I want more of in my career or in my burnout coaching. And so this section of your board may have where you want to grow as a parent, where you want to grow as a clinician. The flow section of my vision board, it's more about receiving and abundance and ease. And then for me, the glow section of my board is about my embodied inner confidence and my alignment and how I show up. We are going to walk through my value to vision matrix. We're going to look at what a goal looks like when we are not honoring our values, what limiting beliefs come up, how we can flip them into affirmations, and then what does it look like when I'm moving towards my values? And that is where you get your pictures for your vision board. I gave some examples of questions you can ask yourself for each of these areas. So for the glow container, you might ask yourself, who am I when I'm living as my future self? How does my aligned self move through her day? What does a calm, confident version of me look like? Where am I already experiencing those small things? And what feels congruent with who I'm becoming? So those are some things we might want to ask yourself. For grow, you can ask yourself what you want to understand or expand in this season, what you want to outgrow, what feels aligned with your next level of growth, whether that's career or life or sport. There's a season where my daughter and I learned to play tennis together. We were not very good, but it was really fun. And also, where can you practice courage instead of control? And then for flow, what do you want to receive? What do you want more of? You can think about what you want to invite in, how you want to make space to receive it. What do you want more of in this season? What beliefs or systems will help you stay in flow? What does abundance look like my way? I don't know what I meant by that. Then what routines match my capacity right now and aren't like perfect routines? This is a ChatGPT prompt that you can use to flip your limiting beliefs into more empowering affirmation. So you can tell ChatGPT or whatever your AI of choice is what's coming up that is a limiting belief for you. So maybe you say, I want to have energy at the end of my workday, but my limiting beliefs are I have too much work, my caseload is too high, my boss is a jerk. My core values are, list your core values, and then ask it to help you reframe these limiting beliefs into empowering truths. It can suggest small actionable steps to move forward. It can provide you with some journaling prompts, and then create a simple weekly action plan. So that kind of expands past the vision board, but I like this prompt. Okay, we are getting there. So when we think about the types of pictures that you're going to choose, there's no right or wrong pictures, but you want to pick the ones that work for you. We want to think about how an image makes us feel. Do we want literal or metaphorical? We can add things that we've already accomplished, and then we can consider our point of view. So this picture makes me feel sad, and this picture makes me feel happy. So if I were thinking about adding something that has to do with speaking, I would pick this one where I'm looking out at the audience and everybody looks so happy and they're clapping and it must have been a good talk. She looks nervous and anxious. And so we want to think about how our images make us feel. This group of ladies looks so mad, and then this group of ladies looks so fun. Who do you want to be out with for a girls' weekend or even a work conference, right? This group. Here's an example of the literal picture you might add to your board and a metaphorical picture and then stuff in the middle. Okay, you can also add your accomplishments that you have made. So these are some different versions of my vision board from along the way. This was the day of my brand photo shoot. I felt really good. I felt really happy. And on the way home, my daughter and I stopped at this beautiful butterfly mural. I love a mirror picture. Makes me feel very glowy. And this is in the glow section of my vision board. This was a workout that I did with my daughter, and she was just like, hey, take a picture, and it felt so great. And then this, I spoke at a conference in Florida, and instead of staying for the 2 days when I didn't need CEUs, I decided to take a day and check into a fancier hotel with a rooftop pool and just sat by the pool and enjoyed myself instead of going to a second day of CEUs. And I came home like a rejuvenated human. This is my favorite picture of my family from last Christmas Eve. This is just what I want all the time in life. And so when I put these pictures on here that make me feel good that I have accomplished, it just reminds me that I can have more of those things. Now, if you have not met your goals, you can use the beautiful power of Canva to put yourself into your dreams. And when you do that, you can teach your reticular activating system what it's looking for. You might find more opportunities, and it's that mental rehearsal. So if I look at myself next to Mel Robbins, I'm going to feel more confident. Now, interestingly enough, when I put this picture on my vision board, I didn't put Mel Robbins. And now I'm wondering if I should, because I think I cut out like this section, but I think this year I'm going to add the whole picture. I'm going to do that. And actually, my pretend TED Talk has been on my vision board for the whole year, but I just don't feel as connected to it anymore. So I think the TED Talk's out and Mel Robbins is in. I just whipped this up right before doing this, but one thing that I really want to do is be able to take our daughter on a vacation to Paris before she goes off to college. This is a picture from Thanksgiving. I removed the background. I found this picture in a Google search, took out these two people, and then I put us in front of there and did some other creative canvaing, but that's something that we can do together during our vision board making party. So, to summarize, we are going to use our matrix. We are going to build our goals around growing, glowing, and flowing. We're going to think about what it looks like when we're moving away from our values and our vision. We're going to think about flipping that to build this affirmation that we include on our board. And then we are going to pick the pictures that make us feel good and aligned with those values-based goals. We're going to put those all together. We're going to make them into a vision board. I want to invite you to do this with us inside of the Alignment Revolution. On Wednesday, we're going to go through the annual review process. And something we will do is go back through the year and look through our phones and pick out beautiful moments so that we can figure out what we want more of. We're going to reflect and release on some life moments. Then on Sunday, we're going to get together and build our boards together. So we can make you in front of the Eiffel Tower. We can figure out which pictures look good. We can help each other find things. We can talk about the areas of growth. I'll share my vision board playlist with you on Spotify. Then on Wednesday, we will talk about how we can build some daily practices, and I will share my morning routine that I use with my future self letter and a voice app that reads me my letter, and building those flexible routines. And If you want that ongoing support and the space to walk this through with community, you are more than welcome to come inside of the Alignment Revolution and do that. This process is something that I want people to go through when they join the membership. So building their vision board, and we're going to do quarterly check-ins where we talk about our goals and maybe switch out our pictures and do what I just did, where I say, you know what, a TED Talk doesn't feel good anymore. What do I want to put in that spot? So I would love for you to walk through this with us. You will get that workbook and a Google Doc form for the annual review process. You will get copies of the matrix for you to pop pictures into with that grow, flow, glow framework. You're going to get plug and play templates for Canva for different types of vision boards. Here are some of the templates that you will get. I will show you how to put your vision board on the background of your phone. We'll give you a template for that, different templates that you can add. I think that is everything that you need to know. Mostly, I want you to remember that you do not have to wait for the perfect job or the perfect schedule or the perfect life or burnout to go away to work on these things. And this process can help you build an aligned life inside of the dumpster fire that we're all living in. Okay. And so that is the big picture of how we use our values, brain science, intentional imagery to support you through burnout and into alignment. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them inside of either the Joy Lab community or the Alignment Revolution community, or you can always email me or send me a DM on Instagram.